Okay, hey, but if we talk about the general karate, it's actually hard to describe what is actually karate and what is not. And I can tell you the core finding what I just had, and of course it has fourfolded in it.
Of course.
This is modern, and this is traditional. So we have two sides, modern side and traditional side. And then what we have here is we have I just call this self-defense. It's easier. Self-defense. So this is self-defense, either modern or traditional self-defense aspects. And this is hard. What's the name of this side? So what is anti-self-defense? It's basically like fighter against fighter. Of course, it includes like sports karate and stuff like this, but also I think it includes most of the traditional karate styles like Wadoryu or Shotokan, those, because they are more like that. Okay, now this is a Shotokan specialist who attacks against Shotokan specialist. So it's not sports karate, but it's a fighter against fighter karate.
Yeah. In my latest video, the Universal Martial Artist, I used the term sport, but like Jyrki says, it includes more.
Yeah, it's fighter against fighter karate, and this is fighter against civilian. So if we start about karate's history, so of course we haven't had. We have had only how many years? From 1936, we have had officially only karate. Before that,
that's when the name was officially.
Yeah, that's right. Officially announced. But before that, it was Todi, or depending on how you write it. Anyway, Chinese hand was the karate in Okinawa in 1700 and 1800, and then it was very much focusing on self-defense. So it was not for the war, or it was not for the fighter against fighter. But I think when it moved to Japan, it went more to this box. So I think Japanese styles like how we know nowadays karate, it became more. I think somebody has used the term from self-protection to self-perfection. And I think it's a very describing term. Of course, this includes also the self-defense aspects. Of course, I'm not saying that this is fully in this box, but mainly in this box that it's fighter against fighter. And then based on these Japanese styles, we go to the modern, because this is a traditional side. So Todi was anyway practiced in a traditional way. Japanese styles also, we can say that those are practiced in a traditional way. But then when we go to the modern, but still fighter against fighter, first we had competition karate. It's actually another style. So it's style of its own, competition karate. And after that we have Kyokushin. It's again fighter against fighter, but because it's if you do competition, then you have to actually practice in a modern way. Later on, kickboxing and stuff like this.
Yeah, now there's combat karate.
Yeah. So there are a lot of versions about modern karate versions about fighter against fighter, where they're practiced in a modern way. And always, if you practice competition, you have to practice in a modern way in order to win, because here the point is to win the other person. So from self-protection to self-perfection, and to here to competition. And I think now, what is now quite common, if I think about the big masters nowadays, karate masters, like yourself, I consider yourself
still learning.
Of course, you are still learning, but I think you are one of the modern masters. Of course, Patrick McCarthy, Jesse Enkamp, those guys. I think this is now quite interesting. So getting a little bit back what karate was, but of course not getting back in all ways. So only taking some part of what karate used to be, or maybe used to be. So there is still not yet good name for this, but I just call it new wave. Do you write wave like this?
Yeah, new wave.
Yeah, new wave. So I think most of the karate masters, or let's say people who look forward, they kind of look to this box. So they take from this tradition what is relevant, and then they add new pedagogical stuff, and there's a lot of knowledge nowadays what we can add to these traditions. So I think this is the karate's journey, and in my mind I call all of this karate. So Todi, even though it was not karate, it's a Chinese hand, Japanese styles, this is karate for me. All of these are actually, for me, they are karate. I don't know where goes the line between kickboxing and Kyokushinkai, Asihara, competition karate. They all are karate to me. Also, of course, this box is karate. But for some persons, only parts of this box or some of these boxes are karate. Like somebody says that only this part, Japanese styles, they are only karate. And definitely kickboxing is not anymore karate. So where does karate end? Does it end when you put gloves on?
Well, let's hope at least that there will not be an arrow back here, because
of course not.
Yeah.
All the development goes anyway in spirals, so it's actually impossible to go history back here. It's not just possible. The times are just so different. It's not possible to go back in history.
Yeah, every now and then I run into people that either claim that they train in the old ways, the traditional way, how it was 200 years ago. Well, nobody knows for sure how it was 200 years ago on Okinawa. And even if we knew, I don't think we would like to practice the way they did. I mean, we know so much more these days about pedagogics, about, to some extent at least, I think about how human body works.
Yeah, and if you only think about the short history, like I've been practicing now 28 years in the University of Helsinki Karate Club Honbu, and if I think about what was 28 years ago in Honbu, it's totally that karate what was 28 years ago in Honbu. Even though the karate club is the same, we still practice karate, but what we practice nowadays has very little to do what we practiced 28 years ago. How about 28 years before that? So it's natural that things just develop.
Yeah.
There are different persons, more knowledge all the time. Of course, sometimes also the development goes to the wrong direction. Also, that's also possible. So it's not always so that all the development is good development.